We are so inspired by Siri Lindley. Her life, the way that she's tackled all kinds of challenges in her life, and at the same time, she's a world champion triathlete. She is this accomplished coach, an Olympian coach, an incredible person, and was just faced with probably one of her biggest challenges, which she'll share with us today. And how she has made it through is nothing less than inspirational. And we simply just can't wait for all of you to hear Siri.
Siri is a two-time world champion.
And it is going to be Siri Lindley. What a victory.
I can't believe it when people say world champion Siri Lindley. I would have never thought it could be me.
She's also the #1 female coach in the world. And she also runs a ranch called the Believe Ranch, where they rescue horses.
Right now, we're saving these horses. We are intercepting them before they get sent to slaughter.
I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. I had a bone marrow transplant and have been recovering and healing ever since, and horses have been a huge part of that. And I know that it's because of these guys and just the belief in my journey, and that I have so much life to live and so much loving to give and so much work to do for these animals and in the world, that I am now cancer-free.
Woo! Wait,
So,
say that again.
I am cancer-free.
Yay!
Help me welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Siri Lindley.
When you change your story, you change your life. How can we ever know what we're truly capable of if we're not trying to do what we don't think we can? Shine on, everybody!
Hi, everyone. I am so thrilled to be here at the Co-Mindfulness Summit. Thank you to BB&R Wellness and all of you and all the amazing speakers. It's such a gift to be here today. At the age of 23, I set an impossible goal for myself. I wanted to be the best in the world in the sport of triathlon, which is swimming, biking, and running. The only problem was I was 23 years old and I didn't know how to swim. Who was I to think that I could be the best in the world in this sport that included former Olympic swimmers and bikers and runners when I don't even know how to swim? It was crazy. But haven't we all had an impossible dream at some point in our lives? I believe that we are our most powerful when we have a deep emotional reason why we must achieve our goal. When I was in college, I was a student at Brown University, and on the outside, it looked like I had it made. I was a 3-sport varsity athlete, I was getting great grades, and I'm going to an Ivy League university. But on the inside, I was slowly dying. I was absolutely riddled with anxiety. I was suffocated by my fears. And I had developed the most insane case of OCD to manage this. It would sometimes take me 2 hours to leave my dorm room, depending on how many times I had to put my socks on and off, on and off, on and off until I could get a horrible thought out of my head. I felt like an absolute crazy person. Have you ever felt like you just can't get away from yourself? Well, you're not alone. That was me. And I'd reached such a dark space. And at this point in time, a man named Tony Robbins came into my life with his book, Unlimited Power. And this book just woke me to the truth that I am the conductor of my own symphony of life. And if I don't like the music that I'm creating, I am the only one that has the power to change it. Me. Think about your own patterns of thought. Because at that time, all I was focusing on was what was missing, not on what I had. I was focusing on everything I was scared of and didn't want to have happen, rather than focusing on everything that I loved and that I wanted to create in my life. And at that time, I was focusing on everything I had no control over, rather than that which I had all the control over. And that was my own experience of life. I became awake and I realized where focus goes, energy flows, and I needed to shift my focus to what I wanted, what I loved, what I wanted to create, and what I had the control over. And this freed me from the chains of my OCD. And it also set me on this path of wanting to find out who I was. What did I want to create in my life? And one of my first discoveries was that I was gay. Great. That's all I need at this point in time. But I thought, I'm just happy to discover a truth about myself. I'm going to embrace that, and I'm going to live my life and find out more about who I am. So all was fine until I received a phone call from my father about 2 years later. And when I answered the phone, all I could hear was crying on the other end, bawling, like deep, deep moans of crying. And when he finally got his words, he said, "Somebody told me you're gay. I couldn't possibly have a daughter that's gay. I beg you, tell me it's not true." When I found my breath, I said to him, "Dad, it's true, I'm gay. Please love me anyway." And he hung up the phone, and I didn't hear from him for the next 2 years. And after that, I was lucky to receive a phone call on Christmas. His rejection made me feel like everything that I had accomplished up until that point in time meant absolutely nothing now that I was gay. It was devastating. But it was soon after that I found triathlon. And I tell you what, his rejection, it instilled in me this desire, this determination, this desperation to want to prove to myself, most importantly, that even as a gay woman, I can achieve something that I think is spectacular, that I can inspire other people, and that I can make a difference in this world. And most importantly, that I could be loved by myself. So I began this mission in triathlon. I did my first race. I absolutely humiliated myself. I nearly drowned on the swim. I came in dead last, but I had never felt so alive in my entire life. And it was after that race I declared to myself and to my amazing mom who had witnessed this, I am going to be the best in the world in this sport. My poor mom, she felt like crying because I'd just come in dead last and I'd embarrassed myself. I did the run, half of the run with my helmet on. But she looked at me with love and she said, "Honey, let's do this for 2 years. I will support you. But promise me that if after 2 years it doesn't look like anything really good is going to happen, that you'll go back to doing something you're good at." And I made her that promise. But my mission began on that day. 2 things had to happen first. Number one, I needed to let go of trying to be everything I thought I needed to be for everyone around me. I needed to be fearlessly, authentically me. That's where my power would lie. And I needed to become someone that was willing to fail, understanding that it's through our failures, it's through our disappointments that we learn and we grow the most. That's how we make progress. If you're not willing to fail, you're actually really not willing to succeed. So I immersed myself in this sport. I got a coach. I learned how to swim. I learned everything I could about nutrition and training, swimming, biking, running, race, mindset, strategy, everything. I modeled the very best athletes in the world for years. I moved to Australia because that's where the best athletes came from. And I did what they did. And I ate like they ate, and I slept like they slept, and I did everything modeling the best. For sure, that was going to take me to a whole new level. And 6 years after setting this goal, I turned professional and I made it to the Olympic trials. And I failed miserably on that day. But the gift in that is that it led me to thinking, okay, what is missing? What else do I need to do? And I thought, proximity is power. There was this coach that, his name is Brett Sutton, the best coach in the world at that time. He coached multiple world champions and Olympic medalists. And I thought, my God, what if I got this guy to coach me? When I finally got in front of him, he looked at me and he said, I remember you. You were at a race in Australia. I was walking home. All my athletes had finished. But you were in like 30th place. And you were absolutely killing yourself to come in 29th. He said, I like that. That's hunger. Because guys, it's not about coming in first, second, or third, or there's nothing. It's about being the best you that you can be every single day, being better than you were the day before. That's what matters. So he decided to take me on, and I moved to Switzerland, where he had this magical training camp. And I was training side by side with world champions and Olympic medalists and being coached by this amazing coach. But day one is the scariest day of my entire life. It started with a 6K swim where we had to ride down the mountain on our bikes, about 15 miles down the mountain to this pool. And I swam triple what I'd ever swum before, getting my butt kicked the entire time. And when we finished the swim, I'm getting all ready to get in a bus or a van or something to take us back up to the top of the mountain. And there's no car or van waiting. And I turned to one of the other athletes and I said, well, how are we meant to get back home to the top of the mountain? And they said, you ride home. And this girl, Loretta, said, go with Jane. Jane sucks. And I thought, oh my God, first of all, that's so mean. That's horrible. But where's Jane? And I found Jane and I said, hey, Jane, do you mind if I ride back up with you? Within 1 mile, Jane had dumped me off the back and I was riding alone. So if Jane sucked, what am I? But I grinded my way up that 15 miles back to my room. I've had the hardest day of training my entire life. And I thought, now it's time to rest. And I heard a knock at the door and it's my coach, Brett. And he said, get ready, we're going for a run. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that he's going to make me run now. This must be like 5 minutes of just jogging easy to flesh out my legs because that's crazy to do anything more. And I went up and we all got in the van and he drove us down to the very bottom of the mountain again, told us to get out of the car, did a donut and pulled away and yelled out the window, see you at home. I had to run 15 miles up this mountain. I'd never run probably more than 10 miles before in my life. I limped my way to the top, and that night I called my mom and I was in floods of tears and I said, Mom, I don't think I can do this. This is craziness. And she said, Siri, he's just testing you. It's probably just a test. You got through it. You succeeded. You're going to be fine. Every single day, it was the same exact thing, not the exact same session, but the same kind of epic craziness. It was almost inhumane, the amount of training we did, 6 to 8 hours a day. And one day I could barely move. And I got in front of Brett and I said, Brett, I don't think I can do what you're asking me to do today. I can barely move my body. And he looked at me and he said, find a way. All I could do was the best that I could with what I had on each and every day. But it was absolutely brilliant because every single day he was giving me something that seemed so impossible. Every single day I just did the best that I could with what I had, and every day I proved to myself that what seems impossible is really possible. How can we ever know what we're truly capable of, if we're not trying to do what we don't think we can every single day, you've got to get out of your comfort zone. Live there even. Exactly 8 years after setting this goal, I landed at the World Championships. And this day is a perfect example of how when we change our stories, we change our life. Because on this day, I got out of the water in near dead last. And up until this point in time, what that meant to me, the meaning I would give a bad swim, is that my race was over. Because at this level, there's no way you can catch back up. But I had never trained so hard in my entire life. I can't just give up because I had a bad swim. So on this day, I changed the meaning of that bad swim to an opportunity to put my head down and go as hard as I possibly can and just see how close I can get to the front. And I got on that bike and I hammered harder than I'd ever hammered before. I'd never gone so hard in my life, but I caught the 4th pack, and then I caught the 3rd pack, and then I caught the 2nd pack. And by the last lap of the bike, I was at the front of the race. And I looked over, and this athlete, McKeely Jones, who is one of the athletes that I had modeled in Australia, I lived with her actually, and she looked at me and she said, "Well, that was stupid, Siri," as if to say, "You're not going to have any legs to run with." And I don't know where this came from because she's a #1 athlete in the world, but I took a deep breath and I looked at her and I said, "Hey, McKeely, ready to run?" And I was like, I can't believe I just said that to the best athlete in the world. We got off the bike and I took off like a bat out of hell. I've never run so hard in my entire life, and she's on my shoulder and her big sweaty braids hitting me in the face, and I feel her hot breath on my shoulder, and I am just running for my life, running harder than I'd ever run before. But I had backed myself, and that was so, it gave me this adrenaline that I was believing in myself and backing myself and taking a chance on me. And about 3 laps in, on the 3rd lap of 3 laps, I see my mom, and she's on the sideline. Siri, you're winning. And I got super excited. I thought, oh my God, maybe I can relax now and stop pushing so hard. But 10 meters later, there was my coach, Brett. And he said, "You haven't won anything yet." And he's freaking out. And I'm thinking, she must still be on my shoulder. So I click into an even greater gear, one I didn't even know that existed. And I ran my heart out and I crossed the line. World champion, winning by over a minute. It was my impossible dream had come true. But it wasn't even about winning a world championship that meant so much to me. For the first time in my life, I felt a love, an appreciation, and a respect for myself. I know that took a lot to get that, but I'd been needing that and wanting that and searching for that for a lifetime. And on that day, that was the gift. I was ready to retire at that point in time. I'd found what I was looking for. But I put together one more year. I retired at #1 in the world a year later, and I started coaching. The ultimate privilege to use everything that I'd learned on my journey and help another athlete that had that same kind of dream achieve theirs. The biggest thing I knew is that I needed to be a fearlessly authentic leader. I needed to lead with vulnerability. Because imagine if when I was in college and I had that fear and anxiety, I felt so alone because nobody ever spoke about having fear or spoke about having anxiety. I truly thought I was the only one on the planet that had these feelings. And that aloneness is what led me to such a desperate sadness and terror in my life. So as a leader, as a coach, I was going to be vulnerable. I was going to teach my athletes that it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to fail, because they need to understand that the journey to success is not this perfect path with no potholes. It's a bumpy road, and there are U-turns and there are detours. And in leading in this way with vulnerability, not only did that make me a much more powerful coach, but it empowered my athletes. It empowered them to achieve even greater results than I could have ever dreamed of as an athlete. In 2012, I found my holy grail, my wife, Rebecca Keat. She was everything I'd ever dreamed of. And I was so incredibly terrified to love someone as much as I loved her. But I went all in, just like I had in the sport. I wanted to love her unconditionally, with vulnerability, and with every ounce of my soul wanting to light up her life. And because I now had a love for myself, I was able to do that. And it was the greatest feeling in the world. 4 years later, another beautiful girl came into my life, a rescue horse named Savannah. Savannah was on the road to slaughter. 60,000 horses a year are brutally slaughtered for human consumption. And when I rescued Savannah, she brought me to all new levels of self-discovery. I found in me, on my journey with her as my teacher, this courage and this strength and this bravery that I never knew existed, that I never thought was possible. And after a few months of my life changing because of this beautiful horse, I said to my wife, what did we have to save her from anyway? And I got online and I Googled, why would I need to rescue a horse? And this video came up about horse slaughter. And it was the most horrific, brutal, disgusting thing I'd ever seen in my life. Horses being shot, but still alive and being dismembered. And I fell to the ground in tears. I was wailing. And my wife came running up the stairs and she thought somebody had died. And I just pointed at the screen and she watched the video and she started crying too. And we looked at each other and we knew that our lives were never going to be the same again. We had to do something to help these animals. We had to do something, but we're triathlon coaches. We don't have money to save these animals. But just like I spoke of earlier, when you have a deep enough emotional reason why you must, you find a way. And we built up our business. We tried all new things and our business grew and we finally found enough financial freedom to create our nonprofit, Believe Ranch and Rescue. We're a horse rescue and we have saved 116 horses from slaughter in 3 years. And many of these horses have gone on to heal humans through equine therapy all around the country. It's been an absolute gift doing this work. I've always believed that life is happening for us, not to us. And in thinking about that, I've thought a lot about what happened with my dad. And I thought, what if he'd called me on that day and said, Siri, someone told me you're gay. You're going to make the most fabulous lesbian. Would that have inspired me and motivated me and driven me to achieve what I did in the sport and in my life this far? No. His rejection was a gift. I called my father and I thanked him. I said, Dad, I want to thank you for being exactly the father I needed you to be, to become the woman that I am so proud to be today. He cried, and for the first time in years, over 25 years, he said, I'm sorry, I love you, and I am so proud of you. I had my father back, and I had my freedom, and forgiveness was the key. In November 2019, I realized that every experience in my life was leading me and preparing me for the greatest challenge of my life. And I received that challenge in November. My doctor called to say, Siri, you have acute myeloid leukemia, and you have a genetic mutation that is going to make this extremely difficult to treat. My world turned upside down in that moment. It was a mix of intense fear and shock and devastation and sadness. And my wife was listening. She had tears flooding out of her eyes. And I looked in her eyes, and I'd never felt such a deep love before in my entire life, not only for her, but from her. And in that moment, my doctor is still on the phone, but in that moment, I made the most powerful decision of my entire life. This is not my time to go. I am going to survive, and I am going to thrive. And that decision was so incredibly powerful because every single thought I had from that point forward was going to lead me to that outcome, nothing else. The first thing that had to happen is I had to figure out what I was going to do to treat this. And I have so many incredible people in my life, brilliant people that I love and respect, that had opinions on where I should go and what I should do. But I knew that this decision was going to have to be mine. This decision had to come from my heart. This decision had to come from my gut. And I decided on my plan of treatment, 2 incredible doctors here in Denver, Colorado. It was going to be a clinical trial that would take me, hopefully, in a matter of months into remission, at which point I would immediately have a bone marrow transplant, and we would pray that that would heal me. I chose that. It came from my heart, and I believed in it 1,000,000%. I had this routine. I believe in difficult times, and we can all think about our times right now with COVID and the political unrest and everything that's happening in the world. There's so little certainty that we need to create our own. And every single day from the day of my diagnosis, I went through a routine that I'd set for myself. It started with priming, which is something that I do every morning. It starts with breathing exercises, and then you go into 3 things that you're grateful for, and you feel them. You stand in those moments that you're grateful for, and you remember them, and you feel the gratitude. And then you think about healing anything that needs to be healed inside your body and see it happening, see yourself healing. And then you send that healing out to people that you love and care about. Send that healing out to the world and see it happening. And then you think about 3 things that you want to achieve or accomplish. And I would think about myself healthy, strong, with vibrant energy, running up my favorite trail and getting to the top of the mountain and celebrating. I would see it happening. I would see myself in that moment and feel what it would feel like. Every single morning I did this priming. I did meditation. I was focusing on everything I could do with my diet and my hydration and alkalinizing my body. I would read, I would pray, and I'd sweeped out my soul. And by that, what I mean is that I felt like any unresolved issues inside my soul I needed to clear out to make way for the healing. And that meant forgiving people that had hurt me, that I still was feeling pain over. Forgiving myself for things that maybe I wasn't proud of having done or not having done. And in that act of forgiveness, I felt I was opening up space to heal. But in challenging times, to have something that gives you that certainty, I knew that by doing this routine every single day, that I was leaving no stone unturned and doing my part in making sure that I healed. I also had the gift of truly having become the master of my mindset over the years. And I'll never forget being in the hospital and a former version of myself, just weak and so sick and so desperately terrified and sad. But I would catch myself in that moment and I would realize these thoughts are not helping me heal. These thoughts are making me feel worse. So I would bridge over to gratitude. I would look over at my amazing mom asleep on the couch beside me. She slept on that couch for over a month. And I would feel so grateful And I think about my amazing wife who had never left my side for a moment, and I'd feel so grateful. I think about my sister who was my donor and the doctors that were giving me such amazing care and the nurses, and I'd feel such gratitude. And then I'd look at the walls of my hospital room covered in my vision boards that I'd made, reminding me of the life that awaited me. And most importantly, then I would settle on, I don't know if you can see over my shoulder, but the picture of me winning the world championships in 2001. That was my reminder, the reminder of who I am. That was my proof. And we all have proof. Proof of times when we didn't think we would make it through something, but we did. Proof that we are capable of achieving things that seem impossible. We all have that proof. And at this time, I needed to access that proof. And I did. And that gave me strength and that helped me heal. I'll never forget, I got a message from a woman on social media. And she wrote me and she said, "How can you be so positive? Don't you understand that your chances of survival are less than 10%? First of all, I couldn't believe that she wrote this to me. But when I came back to a good space, I wrote her back and I said, "I am not a statistic. I am Siri Lindley. And I've proven before that the impossible is really possible, and I will prove it again. I will triumph." You know, that hurt for her to write that, but it reconnected me, like I'm saying, in the hospital, connecting to who I am. And all these things, disciplining my mindset in every single moment, from thoughts that hurt me and made me feel worse to thoughts that empowered me and gave me hope and belief in myself and belief in this journey. And exactly 6.5 months after my bone marrow transplant, I got a phone call from my doctor to say, "Siri, you are cancer free." I get to live. I get to live this incredible miracle of life. You know, there's a beautiful gift in every struggle. And when I look at what I've been through, although it's been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, there's a beautiful gift in it. I have always been such a giver, just give, and give some more. And I really had a difficult time receiving. But in order to truly give to the world around us, we have to learn how to receive. That's what gives us that energy to continue to give and to give more. Cancer gives you no choice but to learn how to receive. There were times when I couldn't do things for myself, and it came down to my mom and my wife and the doctors and nurses to care for me, and I had to accept that. And the greatest gift in learning how to receive is that I can now give so much more. And the other gift is that this brought my family together. I have a relationship with my sister. She saved my life. I understand that the love from my mom, the love from my wife is true and real, and they are by my side no matter what. I have my dad back too. And I learned how to receive my own love too. Learning to be kind to myself on days when I knew I wasn't handling it the best way that I could, but having love and compassion for me. When you think about how can you close the gap from where you are to where you want to be, no matter what situation you're in, whether it's in your job, in your career, or getting through a challenge, it starts with this. It starts with making the decision to be the champion of your own life in every single moment. Loving yourself and caring for yourself like you would your most beloved, and leaving no stone unturned. Now is the perfect time to claim your magic, to step into your power, and to shine your magnificent light on this world. I want to thank Daro and Trisha, BB&R Wellness. You guys are amazing. I can't tell you how much you've inspired me, not just from who you are, but from what you give to the world. Please continue to shine your light on this amazing world. You are incredible, and I'm so deeply grateful for you. Thank you.
That was an incredible talk that Siri shared with us, Doro. Unbelievable.
It really was. Siri is an example to all of us on how to live your best life, even overcoming obstacles, and she's just really a wonderful person.
Amazing. And when she talked about clearing out space for healing and clearing out space so she could have more gratitude, that was
Hmm.
pretty. I mean, and I just had that visual of it, just sort of space happening, and then healing energy could make its way in. I mean, just a story. And I love when she said to step into your magic, that we all
Hmm.
have magic, and sometimes we forget we have magic, but we do
Yeah.
have it, and to step up and be in that magic that was given to us. Wow. She was so inspirational.
She
Crazy.
really, she's a great person.